Libra, the end of May, especially May 30th and 31st, carries a feeling that is impossible to ignore. If this video found you now, it was never random or accidental. This kind of message only reaches you when timing, karma, and emotional alignment begin moving together at the same quiet moment. And if something inside your chest softened the instant these words began, that feeling matters, because the end of May is not casually brushing past Libra energy this time. It is asking for your attention. There is a rare shift unfolding here, one where something you already convinced yourself to stop expecting begins opening again from beneath the surface. Something you buried just to keep moving forward, something you slowly stopped believing could ever return, is no longer as distant as it once felt. Even before visible change appears, the energy around you has already started loosening, becoming lighter, less emotionally crowded, less trapped inside the exhausting cycle you have carried for so long. Venus, your ruling planet, has been pressing heavily against your sense of balance for months, quietly teaching you how often you abandoned your own needs to preserve peace for everyone else. And now, almost so gently you could miss it, that pressure is beginning to ease. That is why the end of May feels different before anything fully arrives. That is why your intuition keeps circling back toward memories, unfinished emotions, conversations that never truly settled, and choices you thought you had already made peace with. The universe is revisiting what remained unresolved, not to reopen pain, but to complete what timing once delayed. Think about the one thing you stopped asking life for, the relationship that faded while you kept pretending balance still existed, the opportunity that disappeared while you hesitated, the stability that always seemed one step beyond reach, the message that never came, the door that stayed closed. You did not stop caring. You simply grew tired of standing in the space between hope and disappointment. And strangely enough, that quiet exhaustion, the moment you stopped forcing outcomes and trying to keep everything emotionally balanced for everyone around you, may be the exact reason this new opening can finally appear. Not every Libra will recognize this message when it arrives. Not every Libra reaches this part of the cycle at the same time. That is why the calmness in these words carries urgency underneath it, because this moment is a doorway, not a permanent invitation that waits forever. There is an old idea that miracles reveal themselves when the mind finally becomes still enough to stop negotiating with fear. Libra, you have spent too long weighing every possibility, replaying every emotional outcome, trying to make everything fair, while quietly losing your own center in the process. But karmic timing does not disappear because something failed. Sometimes life simply waits until your spirit is ready to receive without shrinking itself first. The end of May carries that alignment, and the reason it feels both peaceful and intense at once is because real shifts rarely arrive with chaos. They arrive like recognition, soft at first, but impossible to unknow once felt. You may notice the signs quietly before anything fully changes. A conversation that unexpectedly returns, someone drifting back into your awareness, an opening that feels small at first but strangely important, a sense of calm replacing the constant need to overthink every possibility. This is life knocking carefully, waiting to see whether you are finally ready to stop abandoning yourself for the sake of emotional balance. And Libra, you have carried roles, expectations, and invisible pressure that were never meant to stay on your shoulders this long. If you are still listening now, something inside you already recognizes that movement has begun, that your future is slowly unlocking in ways you cannot entirely explain yet. Walking away from this moment too quickly could mean overlooking a sign meant specifically for you. Stay here a little longer, because what unfolds next will explain what is truly changing, why this shift is happening now, and how to keep this opening from slipping quietly back into the space of almost. And as this energy settles more deeply into you, Allow yourself to acknowledge it simply by staying present and keeping your awareness open. And if something inside you feels drawn to support this video by liking it, subscribing, or sharing it with another Libra who may also be standing in front of a quiet turning point they cannot fully explain yet, trust that feeling. Every small action taken with intention sends energy in two directions at once, outward into the world and inward into your own awareness, strengthening the path that is slowly rearranging itself around you. Stay here a little longer, because what comes next is more than guidance. It is confirmation, and it may be the exact sign you have been waiting for without knowing how to ask for it. Libra, before we speak about what is beginning to open, we first need to name what slowly disappeared while you kept trying to hold everything together. The shift arriving at the end of May only makes sense once you recognize the impossible experiences that shaped you beforehand. For many Libras, it was never just one disappointment. It became a pattern that repeated quietly through different seasons of your life. Relationships that slowly lost balance without explanation, stability that never lasted long enough to feel safe. Opportunities that appeared briefly, then slipped away while you were still deciding whether to trust them, or someone whose absence still lingers in your inner world like words left unfinished. You convinced yourself you could handle it. You told yourself that staying calm, understanding everyone, and accepting reality without resistance was the mature thing to do. But underneath that composure lived a deeper exhaustion, the feeling that life kept asking you to compromise your own needs while offering very little in return. This is the Libra wound that rarely gets spoken about openly. The quiet habit of choosing harmony over honesty, of making room for everyone else's emotions until your own voice becomes difficult to hear. Over time, that pattern slowly reshaped the way you saw yourself until wanting more began to feel selfish, expecting reciprocity started feeling unrealistic, and being fully chosen felt like something meant for other people. Astrologically, this weight was not imagined. Venus has been moving through difficult energetic cycles that forced you to reconsider what balance actually means. Not the appearance of peace, but the truth underneath it. Instead of helping you feel connected, these cycles often pulled you into emotional obligations that were never fully yours to carry. They kept you standing in relationships, expectations, and patterns long after your spirit had already grown tired. This is why you felt emotionally drained, even while trying to remain hopeful, connected to others, while quietly disconnected from yourself. Because when Libra loses balance internally, the line between compassion and self-abandonment becomes dangerously easy to cross. Somewhere along the way, you began believing that receiving too much would eventually cost you something, that joy could disappear without warning, that stability would always shift the moment you relaxed into it. So you lowered your expectations, not because you lacked faith, but because disappointment taught you to protect yourself through emotional restraint. Yet wisdom has never been about enduring endless discomfort. Awareness is what changes the cycle. And many Libras mistake endless accommodation for emotional growth, believing that suffering quietly is proof of maturity, when in truth, pain only becomes meaningful once it teaches you where you are no longer meant to shrink yourself. There is an old prophecy that says, what disappears during one season of imbalance can return once the scales finally correct themselves. Libra, this was never punishment, it was timing. What slipped away from you was not permanently denied. It was delayed until the cycle matured enough to return it in a way that would not break you all over again. That is why effort often felt invisible before now, why love felt unstable, why abundance stayed just beyond reach no matter how carefully you tried to hold everything together. The door remained closed because your spirit was still learning the difference between peace and self-erasure. But hear this clearly now. The longer you remain trapped inside the old version of your story, the longer the same emotional loop continues repeating itself. Karma does not disappear simply because time passes. It waits until awareness catches up. The end of May is not just another stretch of days, it is a turning point. And if you dismiss this shift as coincidence, if you fall back into old hesitation, if you continue believing nothing truly changes for you, life may continue reflecting that belief back for far longer than necessary. Cycles rarely break through force alone. They break the moment you finally recognize them. And if you feel guided to support this video by liking it, subscribing, or sending it to another Libra who may be standing in the same quiet crossroads, pay attention to that feeling. Every action taken with intention strengthens the energy already beginning to shift around you, both internally and beyond what you can see. Stay here a little longer, because the next part is not simply more information, it is confirmation. It may be the very sign you have been waiting for without fully knowing how to ask for it. Libra, before we speak about what is beginning to arrive, we need to gently acknowledge what slipped away while you were still trying to keep everything balanced. The meaning of this end of May shift cannot fully be understood unless you recognize the impossible weight that shaped you first. For many Libras, the impossible was never just one painful moment. It became a cycle. Relationships where harmony depended on your silence. Stability that disappeared just as you relaxed into it. Opportunities that arrived softly and faded while you were still questioning whether you should choose yourself. A person whose absence still lingers beneath your daily life like unfinished music drifting through an open window. You kept telling yourself you were handling it well. You convinced yourself that compromise was wisdom and that accepting less was simply maturity. But underneath that calm surface lived a quieter sadness, the feeling that life kept asking you to give understanding, patience, and emotional labor without ever fully meeting you in return. This became the hidden Libra burden, the habit of softening yourself to avoid conflict, carrying emotional imbalance quietly, trying to preserve connection even when it cost you your own center. Over time, that pattern reshaped your sense of worth until wanting more started to feel unreasonable, and expecting to be chosen began to seem meant for other people instead. Astrologically, this was not imagined. Venus, your ruling planet, has been moving through cycles that forced you to confront how often you confused harmony with self-abandonment. These energies blurred the line between love and emotional accommodation, pulling you toward situations where you continued giving long after reciprocity disappeared. That is why you felt emotionally drained while still trying to remain hopeful, connected yet unseen, constantly available while quietly disconnected from yourself. Libra energy often carries the belief that peace must be earned by making yourself smaller, and you crossed that line more times than you realized. Somewhere in the middle of all this, you began believing that joy could never stay for long, that emotional security would always shift beneath you, and that receiving too much would eventually create loss. So you lowered your expectations, not because hope disappeared, but because disappointment taught you to brace yourself before happiness could fully arrive. There is wisdom that says suffering alone does not awaken the soul. Awareness does. And many Libras mistake emotional endurance for emotional growth, believing that sacrificing themselves for connection is proof of love, when often it only reveals where boundaries were never honored. There is an old belief that what belongs to you returns once balance is finally restored. Libra, this was never punishment, it was timing. What you lost was not permanently denied, it was held back until the moment you could receive it without abandoning yourself in the process. That is why your effort once felt invisible, why opportunities dissolved before becoming real, why emotional fulfillment always seemed close enough to feel, yet never fully arrived. Not because you lacked value, and not because you were incapable, but because the cycle itself had not opened yet. But this next part matters deeply. The longer you remain inside the old story, the version of yourself that survives through hesitation, emotional compromise, and silence, the longer the same patterns continue repeating. Karma does not fade simply because time moves forward. It waits for recognition. And the end of May is not just another passing moment. It is a turning point. If you dismiss this shift as coincidence, if you retreat back into resignation, if you continue believing that nothing truly changes for you, life may continue reflecting that belief back for much longer than necessary. Because cycles do not break through force. They break through awareness. If you hesitate for too long, the opportunity is not taken away in anger. It simply moves toward the next opening that is ready to receive it. Cycles are precise in the way seasons are precise. They are guided by timing, not emotion. This is not being said to frighten you, Libra, but to awaken your awareness, because miracles remain only where they are met with presence instead of fear. As you listen, pay attention to the way your body responds. The warmth, the quiet calm, the feeling of inner recognition. Those reactions are not random emotions, they are confirmations. And honoring those confirmations is part of protecting what is beginning to form around you. If this message feels grounding instead of overwhelming, that itself is a sign of alignment. Alignment strengthens through conscious participation, through the small choices that quietly tell your subconscious and the universe that you are no longer asleep inside old patterns. Supporting this video, subscribing, or sharing it with another Libra who may need reassurance are not meaningless gestures. They anchor intention. They strengthen the timeline you are beginning to enter. They signal that you are present, open, and emotionally awake. Stay here, because what comes next matters deeply. Not everyone recognizes this truth in time, and there is one familiar reflex capable of dissolving this shift before it fully arrives. Libra, understanding what to avoid may become even more important than knowing what to pursue next. Listen carefully now, because this moment is not testing your strength, it is testing your awareness. And the end of May, as important as it is, does not force blessings to remain. It only opens the door. What happens afterward depends entirely on how you respond. This is where many Libras unknowingly lose what was beginning to move toward them. Not because life withdraws the opportunity, but because an old emotional habit quietly returns and takes control again. The warning is simple, but it carries weight. The end of May opens the path, but Libra can still close it by stepping back into the familiar role of emotional accommodation before being fully valued, respected, or understood. You have spent much of your life believing that love is maintained through compromise, that safety comes from keeping everyone comfortable, and that connection survives only when you soften your own needs first. Under Venusian influence, those patterns became deeply automatic. Astrologically, unresolved emotional cycles can make Libra highly sensitive to imbalance, especially when life finally begins offering something genuine in return. Because the moment you start receiving more, old energy often rushes back in to see whether you will abandon yourself again for the sake of harmony. That is the real trap. Someone may suddenly need your attention emotionally, just as your own opportunity begins opening. A situation may awaken guilt, obligation, nostalgia, or the instinct to overextend yourself in ways that feel compassionate, but are actually familiar imbalance, wearing a softer face. There is wisdom that teaches compassion should never require self-erasure. Care does not ask you to disappear inside someone else's needs. Yet Libra often mistakes emotional sacrifice for love, believing that keeping peace matters more than protecting personal truth. Real compassion includes boundaries. False harmony slowly drains your spirit. There are moments when holding on to a miracle does not mean clinging tightly to it, but refusing to shrink yourself again just to preserve comfort for others. It means refusing to overgive where reciprocity was never truly present. It means no longer returning to the version of yourself that survived by becoming smaller. The signs of losing alignment may appear quietly at first: sudden exhaustion without clear reason, a growing anxiety that tells you to explain yourself more, accommodate more, give more, or make yourself easier to accept. If you begin feeling responsible for another person's emotional stability again, if peace starts feeling conditional, if your body tightens instead of relaxes around what is arriving, those are not acts of love, they are warnings. Libra, what is meant for you does not arrive asking to be negotiated, it arrives asking to be received. And the moment you begin bargaining with your worth again, the energy starts pulling away, not as punishment, but as protection. That is why this window matters so much. Life does not endlessly reopen the same lesson in the same form. If this opportunity passes, the cycle may not return for a very long time, not until awareness finally catches up with timing. This is not meant to create fear. It is meant to wake you up, because fear survives only where clarity has not fully settled yet. What you are feeling now is not danger, it is importance. This moment matters because it is clear, uncluttered, and emotionally precise. You are not being asked to chase, prove yourself, suffer, or fight for love anymore. You are being asked to stay emotionally grounded while life quietly rearranges itself around you. And for Libra, that can feel far more unfamiliar than struggle. You may feel tempted to delay, to soften your needs again, to pretend something is acceptable when it is not, or to choose emotional familiarity over true alignment, simply because familiarity feels safer. But the end of May does not reward emotional avoidance. It responds to presence, and the miracle approaching you will not arrive loudly. It will wait quietly to see whether you step toward it as your true self or retreat once more into the old pattern. If you step back now, nothing dramatic will happen. The opportunity will simply drift out of reach, leaving behind that lingering feeling that you were standing near something life-changing but never fully allowed yourself to enter it. And that feeling can stay with you for a very long time. Libra, hear this clearly. Right now, you are not being asked to rescue anyone, carry anyone, or prove your worth through exhaustion. Your role in this moment is protection, not sacrifice. Protect your energy, protect your time, protect the quiet certainty beginning to settle inside you after such a long season of emotional imbalance. This is how blessings become lasting instead of temporary. As you listen, notice whether your body feels open to these words or quietly resistant, because your body often understands alignment before your mind does. If this message resonates, anchor it. Support this video to mark the moment. Subscribe as a sign that you are choosing awareness over old emotional patterns, and share it with another Libra who still believes love must always be earned through struggle. Stay with me, because what comes next matters deeply. We are no longer speaking only about what could block this shift, but about what allows it to remain once it arrives. Libra, if you are still here, then some part of you already recognizes this message. You were not guided here accidentally, because life does not speak this clearly to those who are not ready to hear it. And the end of May is not simply another passing moment. It is the closing of a long emotional cycle, where what you carried silently for years finally begins returning in real form, instead of remaining only a lesson. Every time you chose understanding over ego, every moment you stayed patient while others moved ahead, every time you silenced your own needs to preserve harmony, none of it disappeared. It was being held until receiving no longer required you to abandon yourself in the process. This is that window. And before doubt becomes louder than your intuition again, you need to consciously stabilize this energy, because blessings strengthen when they are acknowledged fully. Place your hand gently over your chest for a moment and slow your breathing. Inhale deeply, exhale softly, and let your body remember what emotional safety feels like. There is wisdom that teaches, True release creates space for abundance naturally, not through force or struggle. Libra, you are no longer being asked to chase peace or earn love by constantly adjusting yourself for others. You are being asked to allow good things to reach you without immediately questioning whether you deserve them. Allowing is an active choice. It means stopping the habit of negotiating your worth, delaying joy, or expecting happiness to disappear the moment it arrives. That is why intention matters now more than ever. When you clearly declare your readiness, the energy around you begins responding differently. And that is why I want you to type these words as a declaration. I choose what chooses me in return. Those words are not for me, they are for you. Every comment becomes a signal that you are present, aware, and finally willing to receive without shrinking yourself first. As you write those words, notice what rises inside you. Relief, emotion, calm, resistance, even silence. Whatever appears is showing you where this shift is already taking root. And do not stop there. Share this video with another Libra who still believes their story must revolve around waiting or emotional compromise, because shared awareness weakens old cycles and strengthens momentum. When you help someone else recognize their value, you strengthen your own connection to what is finally arriving. Subscribe as well, not only to follow future messages, but to mark continuity, to remind yourself that you are choosing to remain emotionally awake as the next signs begin appearing. What unfolds after the end of May arrive quietly and quickly at the same time, and only those who stay present will recognize it before it passes. Libra, this is no longer only about belief, it is about permission. Permission to stop over-explaining yourself. Permission to stop carrying everyone else emotionally. Permission to receive what arrives without apology. There is an old belief that destiny knocks only once when the soul is finally ready. And the knock is soft enough to be missed by those who still doubt themselves. Right now, that quiet knock is happening in your life, asking one simple question. Will you open the door as the person you are becoming, or will hesitation pull you backward again? You do not need guarantees or complete answers yet. You only need the courage to meet possibility without making yourself smaller in front of it. The energy around you now feels precise, abundant, and protective, but it responds to clarity rather than confusion. If emotion rises while hearing this, that is confirmation, not weakness. If calm settles over you instead of excitement, that is readiness, not indifference. Stay present with it. Support this video to anchor the moment. Leave your comment to strengthen the timeline. Share this message to extend the blessing. Subscribe to remain aligned. Libra, what once felt impossible is no longer waiting on fate alone. It is waiting on whether you are ready to step toward the miracle that has already chosen you.